Well, welcome to the Tekion booth, and we love the title of this session. It's called The Truth About Tekion. So obviously it's something where a lot of people are very curious about this company that's kind of disrupting the industry. The DMS space has been pretty much taken care of by a couple of giants over the years, and what we want to do is to expose you all to the items that we think make Tekion unique. My name is David Kane. I'm president of Kane Automotive and a senior advisor to NCM Associates on dealer performance solutions. And what I'd like to do is introduce you to Padram and George. I'm going to let them do the introductions of themselves. So Padram, if we could start with you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, David. My name is Padram Fayed. I'm Vice President of Partner Success and the General Manager of our CRM product.
Hi, my name is George Kang. I'm the EVP of Integrations and Delivery, and I'm looking forward to the session.
Awesome. So Padram is probably the best historian that I've talked to in my time with Tekion and spending time providing advice to those guys. And Padram, if we could start with one simple question, how and why is Tekion different? That's foremost on everyone's mind. What makes you all different?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question, David. I think Tekion's, I know one of the center points of what makes Tekion different is we really are, innovation mindset driven, right? And I think we've demonstrated this from day one of the way we started this vision and our relentless pursuit to innovate in finding a better way. And we've talked about this stat that what we've delivered inside of a 4.5, 5-year timeline, the competitors have probably collectively hadn't delivered in over, 20 years. And so I think that's something that we heard directly from our dealer body, that they were looking for innovation. They were looking for someone that was going to forge the future. And I think that this is something that we're really excited. And every year that we've had the pleasure to come, we've demonstrated that innovation and growth. So that's it.
Yeah, and if anybody got to see Jay's presentation yesterday, not just growth for Tekion, but growth for Tekion clients. And I think obviously you know all too well because you relentlessly pursue dealer sentiment, and it makes all the difference in the world. I am curious, George, I've looked at your resume. Interesting enough, we both have a shared experience with Ford Motor Company, but you could work anywhere. And we teach this to car salespeople all the time. Let them know why you work where you work. Why do you work at Tekion, and why is it the place you want to be?
Yeah. Wow, we're getting personal really quick, David.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've worked at several OEMs. And in addition to that, I worked at, another company. I actually worked at Edmunds for quite a while, 20 years, right?
Wow.
And it's interesting, like when I was thinking about making the change, I was looking at multiple companies, right? And there's different companies that have, because I've just been in the industry for such a long time, it was interesting. You have multiple options of where you could go to. The thing that I will tell you in terms of why I wanted to go to Tekion is there's two things. Number one is people always talk, and being in the industry for such a long time, you talk about, hey, is it going to be an innovative company? Is it going to actually change the industry? And everyone promises that. I mean, look, walk around NADA today, they're all going to say that, right? I was looking for a company that was actually going to truly execute on that. And I will tell you the reason why I chose Tekion. Here, I'll give you an example. This past last summer, right? There's one thing that happened on the Cadillac website that I don't think a lot of people realized, but it was a fundamental change. For everyone here in the audience, I will tell you, anytime you went on, even whether it's the OEM website or the dealer website, the call to action was always, right? It's, go ahead and build the vehicle, and it's build and price. We've had build and price for 20 years plus, right? The promise was, can you get it to the next level, right? This summer, when you went onto the Cadillac websites, it says build and buy, right? That to me was a huge change And that is what we're only executing, right? And that's why I'm here.
Exceptional. I love that personalization. It means a lot because what I've really appreciated with Tekion is the personalities, the drive of the team members that I work with. I see every day. Padron, you and I can start with the promise of a 5-minute phone call, and next thing you know, we're hanging up an hour later. Here's the question I get often: is Tekion ready for prime time? And I'd love to hear your take on it. Obviously, George, will come back to you, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. I mean, everybody's saying, oh, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go this way or that way. What's your answer to that? Let's tell the truth about Tekion.
The 5-minute version or the hour version? Because I think we only got booked for. Yeah, I can certainly talk about this. And, look, it's being ready for prime time. I think in many ways, it's not even about me telling you whether we're ready for prime time. I think it's our dealers telling you, right? And I think really what kind of put the stamp on readiness was, and kudos to our partnership, with Doug Era and the team over at Longo. But, that was like the holy grail, right? And we talk to dealers all the time who said, look, I sell X number of cars. I sell, service this number of cars. And so from a volume perspective, if I was to tell you, I could give you a 10-minute speech on why we think we have the infrastructure and we're ready, or all the technology stack capabilities. But the bottom line is, can we really service the biggest and baddest ship out in the water? And the reality is we can. And, we really learned a tremendous amount. And so I do respect, of course, being with the company for 5 years and being there at the very first launch. Yeah, no, I can appreciate why we weren't ready for prime time, right? But I think through the culmination of the energy and the partnership we've put with our dealers, the relentlessness of this team, Longo was the stamp, right? I think it demonstrated that we are ready for prime time. And I don't want to take away from many other dealers, whether it's our groups out there. I think that kudos to the Rohrman team. They've been here constantly sharing their success, right? A 20-plus group organization, the Bergstrom organization, the 30-plus rooftops. And these are best-in-class operators. So I think a good thing is to don't just listen to what we have about what we believe, whether we're ready for prime time. Really listen to how these groups have really been able to get the benefit of our partnership. And we're excited, of course, to finish with the partnership with Asbury this year, right? So I think
that's a pretty big ship.
That's a pretty big ship, And I think the reality is, look, every dealer has a little bit different something that we learn from. So I don't want to take away that even some of our single point dealers, they give us an opportunity to learn. And I think that that's probably one other thing to attach to, your question about what's different with Tekion. We are truly customer obsessed. So we're relentless and constantly learning, right? And so, but I hope those are the tangibles to demonstrate to you, are we ready for prime time, right? And I would encourage everybody to say, maybe on a chart, where do you stack number of cars sold or service level to maybe Longo? And that might give you some context to, could they handle this size of operation? And we're confident we could.
That's great. And George, it's often said that everything starts with a greeting. You're in charge of implementation. That's the greeting. That's where the team gets to react to what the principal or the GM signed them up for. They may or may not have been part of the choosing of Tekion, but you all walk in with your implementation team, and I promise they're looking at you saying, are you guys ready? I've been here. Now you're asking me to change. Let's talk a little bit about that being ready.
Yeah, let me clarify that. So in terms of the integrations, we were integrated with every single OEM. So whatever make you have, you can go live with us, right? Implementations, obviously Brian Mitchell, absolutely, his team is phenomenal. And walking through the implementations, it is well thought out. And I'll tell you what we've done in effective changes is we do a lot of pre-sales, a pre-discovery now before we go into it, right? And so, and just to give you, again, taking a step back in terms of the number of integrations we do, all the fundamental integrations to get your dealer live, we are ready. In fact, just last year, over 900 additional integrations did we actually develop. And we continue to do that. Like I literally just got out of a meeting with another OEM that says, here are the 5 or 6. And all day yesterday, it was like, what integrations, like, it's very interesting to see the change in where we were at. 4 or 5 years ago, we were probably walking to the OEMs and saying, please let us integrate. Please let us integrate. Now the OEMs are coming to us and saying, okay, hey, we've got all these integrations. We need you to integrate. We want to give it to you. And the reason being is with Tekion, the manufacturers have had this aha moment and realized that our platform makes dealers better. And because of that fact, they're coming in and say, hey, I want to give you additional integrations to make our people more effective.
So interesting enough, you are just publicly acknowledged as being very close to General Motors, being very close to Hyundai. I know that I've got several of my clients that have other brands and represent other OEMs. Let's talk about, if we could, Badram, that relationship and how other OEMs are being brought in.
It's probably kind of a question with George, but I'll share it maybe from my lens, from the success side, and how our company actually really works well with each other. And, Jay talked a little bit about this in his speech yesterday, through platforms and tools such as like our live user sentiment function, right? So look, we're very fortunate and we're very thankful for the partnership we have with both GM and Hyundai. And I think both these companies have really seen the value of how do we create this end-to-end platform connection. And what's great today is many of the dealers we work with are part of a group, right? And so there usually is a demand that they'll say, wow, you know what? In my General Motors store, right, I get this amazing end-to-end workflow and everything is so well integrated. Why is it when I go to brand X, right, that I just don't have that? And, part of my job and with working with my field team on the partner success side is their job is their voice of customer. And they translate that information back. They help generate that information, organize that information, and we communicate it. And we bring it to leaders like George. And we say, George, look, here's some things that we're hearing in the field. These are the areas that we really like. And through their relationships and partnerships, they're able to kind of like triangulate the things that are most important. So, George, I don't know if there's anything to add to that, but
I mean, it's like I said, we've got deep integrations with every single OEM. We all know that our relationship goes beyond that with certain makes, GM and all their makes. That's one thing. Yes, we have a deep relationship with Hyundai, but I will tell you that there are several other OEMs where we are in the middle, and you will hear very big announcements in literally months of what we are doing with them. And we are in very deep conversations with several other OEMs where we are talking about pursuing the next steps, right? And the conversations is how do we go? OEMs have always talked about how do we integrate tier 1 and tier 3 in a seamless experience. They've talked about that for years, right? What we have done with GM, you'll see again, we'll have announcements in a month or two of another company that we're doing it with. And as we are doing that, the other OEMs are recognizing, okay, this is how we need to integrate. We need a better integration between the OEM as well as the dealer websites. And how do we have a seamless experience and a consistent experience? And so we're continuing to have those conversations as we find success in GM and some of these other OEMs. I believe that's going to continue on, which makes all of us just better.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of integrations, and I noticed that in Jay's presentation yesterday, he talked about 350 plus integrations, and companies that want to integrate, I've noticed that companies that we value and we've worked with for over the years really appreciate the ease of which you all have offered that opportunity. Can you switch gears just a little bit and talk to those business partners that might want to integrate?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got many integrations, not just with the OEMs, but we have got a ton of integrations with other business partners, right? I think in 2023, where we made a really big step forward is to give accessibility to our APIs. And so we've got Automotive Retail Cloud strategy, we've got the Automotive Enterprise Cloud strategy, now we've got the Automotive Partner Cloud strategy. And so that is opened up, right? And in fact, here's a plug. On Sunday, we'll have a 2-hour session where our business partners can actually learn more about it. But having that formalized is going to make it a lot more accessible for a lot of our business partner to get into it. And we've got ways for people that just want basic functionalities, basic APIs, or if you need something more, then we've got that offering as well.
Good. So I think that gives a lot of confidence because there's a lot of creativity out in the marketplace, and it doesn't have to be invented here. And I think that's really important. Pedram, you study dealer sentiment all the time. I want to go back to the implementation, the pre-launch, the post-launch. Talk about what you've learned, and then if you could expose us to a little bit about the Tekion certified partner, and not just partner, but the dealer at the launch. We've had that experience with a couple of our dealers that have gone through the program, and it's amazing what the impact is on launch.
Yeah, I mean, this is another great example, right, of the relentless pursuit, right, of how to make something better. And certainly we learned a lot from implementation. And, look, certainly the concept of taking all these products and throughputting them into one, from a technology perspective, is great. It's the holy grail of what people are looking for. But logistically, we realize it's extremely complex and it takes a lot of effort. So in addition to TCP, right, which is a great way for us to work early with the dealers, right, that becomes one of the major milestones to a group of other things that we do. Now we work lockstep and sync with dealers months in advance before going live, with better questions that are designed to kind of reveal the areas that we got caught the most with later, right? And so tools like live user sentiment, they do give us insights, and we know that the repetitive patterns are where we get caught. So then we push that up to the implementation team, and then the implementation team strengthen the questionnaires that go out. And so the partnership that we build with our dealers early on is significantly stronger than it was before. And I think you bring up a really good point, David. And I think you have a couple of examples of what we've experienced with TCP. We've now began measuring the time to value for our dealers, specific with dealers who make the investment in TCP. And I really want to underline that word investment, right? Because it truly is an investment. And one of the things that we see is how fast they're able to use the platform. And more importantly, that when they build kind of expertise, or what we call champions with TCP, and just to kind of give everyone a little bit of the background of TCP, it's our Tekion Certified Professionals program. And there is a difference in training dealers on-site at a dealership versus in a quiet office environment, either in Pleasanton or in Ohio. And that's probably the biggest what I hear from dealers. They say, I really appreciate the content, the way you curate it, but the thing that I got the most from my team when they came back is that they had this direct focus of what they were learning. Because we all know that when we put training inside of a dealership, it's the famous, well, this customer's on fire and this person's, got an issue. And so there's maybe a 50% dilution rate. So TCP has been an incredibly successful program. I think it addresses the heart, to your comments of or the topic here of the truth about Tekion. Look, we know implementation was a big area that we needed to focus on. And I'm really thrilled to show actionable, tangible things, not talking points, but tangible things that we've been able to bring to the table that, quite honestly, if we'd be more than happy to give some references to dealers who want to kind of double click on what TCP is, more than happy to produce for them and say, what was the experience like? And it's been tremendous.
That's really awesome. And George, I think this is a good question for you because your integration responsibilities, but also the core strength of Tekion is the one platform, being able to do digital retailing, CRM, the DMS. Let's talk a little bit about that core platform and why it's good to recognize that.
Thank you. I've been literally waiting for this question. Yeah. It's interesting. This past Monday, I actually got to go to a dealership, and we actually hosted a large dealer group, right? And they were coming in and saying, hey, we really want to see Tekion work, and we want to see how effective it truly is. And so one of the things that we did was, obviously we got the retail module, we've got different modules, and then we went into the service side of it, right? We walked into the service side, and we literally watched them really checking a car in, right? So the person picks up, the service guy comes in, picks up his laptop. He picks up his iPad, just doing the video walk around. He's clicking certain buttons, and he goes, okay, hey, look how easy it is to check in, right? The group looks at me, and it was actually the CFO, and he goes, George, we already have that. We already have those features, right? And he goes, why are you so different? And I said, just wait, right? Then what we did was, after he did the service and he walked in, right? Then we started walking over to the service bays. When we walked over to the service bay, we looked at the service guy, the tech. He's already has the information, knows what he has to do in terms of servicing the car. By the way, think about this. They just checked the car in. There was no paperwork that hands off. The service manager didn't come in and say, oh, you got to do this work, you got to do this work. Automatically, we knew who was available, immediately put in that now this service tech knows what he has to do. Like literally minutes later, there's a person carrying the parts. He's carrying all the parts, and he walks it into the service tech and goes, here are your parts. And the service tech goes, great. And he goes, then I look at the person from the group, and I was like, now this is why we are different, right? Having one integrated system, right, that completely communicates and does not need the handoff from person to person to person. And by the way, think about how that's usually done. It's in a paper RO. And I looked at the service guy and I said, how often you never lose these things, right? You never lose. And the guy started laughing. These guys, the loss of these ROs, that's the reality of it. It happens, right? But having that seamless experience where it goes from check-in to the service tech and parts being delivered immediately, I said, that's what Tekion is. One platform, fully integrated, completely paperless. And think about the time that you save having that one thing, and also the risks of anything going wrong. That was our difference.
Yeah, and I think that next iteration is what's going to happen in the CRM, point of sale, and the communications with the customer. And we got to see some of the revealing of new technology yesterday, the Concierge Pro and some of those. You all do a lot of enhancements, guys. Always something in the offing. So, Pedram, I'd like you to touch a little bit on that, but let's talk about your concept of the unboxing and how easy it is for someone to do that, because you're passionate about at launch and implementation being able to do that. And I know you had me and a few other people in last week, and we went through what implementation improvements could and should. And you've been talking about that to me for at least a year, all these different changes. But what's the concept of unboxing that's so passionate for you?
Yeah, the concept of unboxing was just to demonstrate how great of a leader we have. Jay gave us a book, Build, right, by Tony Fadell, which is one of the key players in the iPhone and worked at Apple, and later on went to essentially birth Nest, right? And the unboxing was really important because, there was a point in that story that, if anybody's actually ever put a Nest up in their house that came with a screwdriver, you unboxed it and there was a screwdriver right there. And so they really thought through some of the hurdles, like what would stop somebody from putting this thing on the wall. And it was something as simple as a screwdriver. And, that became kind of the epicenter of us all going back and saying, well, hold on, maybe we built something really innovative, but we're unboxing it because of the fact we play with it every single day. We understand it very well. And so we used that analogy, right, of the screwdriver to ask each other, well, how easy is it for somebody to unbox it independently and put this thing on the wall? And so today, whether it's programs like TCP that became kind of one of the screwdrivers, for example, for us to think about, or the continuous innovation of putting in stronger knowledge-based systems, engaging learning modules inside the system that dealers can self-learn independently. Because, look, pulling just data on the fly is certainly one way to learn it, but strategically weaving the information so that when we do releases with our product, right, which we got great feedback from our dealers that said, boy, we certainly love the fact that you guys have checked the box on innovation. You deliver more features for us than anybody has ever delivered in the last decade. But can we give you some feedback? Tell us where we can get this information. Yeah. And so, we've got an incredible L&D team who's put an immense amount of energy in really trying to make it easier to pull that information. And so I think these are some of the areas to that unboxing analogy that we're very conscious of. But it's a great question.
So on the leadership team, George, you guys are all the time deciding what to enhance, the pace of enhancements. I know Pedram draws a lot of user sentiment that you all can work with, and you're using your dealer advisory boards, which fortunately I get to participate in. Tell us a little bit about what goes into the decision making before you just roll out an enhancement.
I mean, so just to qualify that, last year alone, we had 221 new features, 608 enhancements. Just last year alone. And by the way, that's us slowing down, right? Because as Pedram talked about, literally dealers like, thank you for the innovation. Wow, this is a lot, right? Secondly, what we did was we had monthly releases, and the reality of it is for many dealers, it was like a little overwhelming, which is interesting, right? Because we got, on one hand, it's, hey, we're not, these companies aren't innovating fast enough. Now it's Tekion, it's, wow, we got to figure out how to make it digestible. So we went into quarterly enhancements, which allowed us to have a much higher fidelity in terms of what we were going to launch. We made sure that in terms of usability testing, all of that was actually built into that. But in terms of prioritizing what we're going to work on, right? With things like our live user sentiment, right? We have that and understand in terms of like what features can we do that will make the biggest impact on our dealer partners, or what is the biggest impact on even our OEM partners. And so we take all that into the case. But again, it's not just us sitting in there as executives trying to decide what it is we actually take real data and we are really looking at the biggest impact that we can have on our clients. I love what Pedram said is our company has this relentless pursuit to make our customers happy. And that is really kind of embedded in our DNA. And that's what's really going to be, that really is what drives our priorities.
I want to build off this thought process of integrations, and it comes very close to home for me. And last week we were going through the Tekion certified business partner strategy and what your all's hope was there. And what that does for a company like ours that provides training everywhere is it puts us in a position where we have an inside track to our clients that use other CRMs, that use other DMSs, but now we're going to have an intimacy and an understanding of how Tekion works and how we can accelerate the utilization for our clients. So could you both touch on that just a little bit as to how important extending out and almost an integration with companies like mine to help us be better facilitators of the Tekion programs?
The birth of the TCPP program really, David, and thank you for also contributing and helping kind of bring that thought to reality, is that, we got this continuous feedback that we're building some sort of a shield and we don't want people to come in and understand what's going on. And it's quite actually the inverse. And more and more we realize that, wow, there's a lot of really great industry experts that we really need to educate on our platform. And what we don't want is somebody to go to the unboxing component, not know how to unbox it. We're certainly learning on how to really enhance unboxing. So we said, look, it'd probably behoove us to make sure that we bring in these industry experts. And that's the center of what the Tekion Certified Business Partner Program is. Bring in the experts, let them learn about our product so that when they consult with their dealers, that they truly know what our capabilities are. And that's how you make something better. Let's say we don't know something or we need to fix something. That's a great way to have industry experts in the conversation versus where we see, unfortunately, is the conversation is being held like in a social media forum like LinkedIn saying this is where the problems and challenges are. which ultimately are going to get addressed anyway because we are customer obsessed. So think of it as kind of a more leading approach to bringing in that partnership. And really, I do encourage anybody who, if you have a partner out there that you'd like for us to learn more, and we broke ground with CRM, and our intent is to continue to break ground with many of our other products to continue that partnership. So,
awesome. Any thoughts on that, George?
Yeah, I'll talk about integrations, and this is one of like the truths about Tekion, right? I will tell you, it's very easy because we are a comprehensive platform, right? We could have taken a couple routes. One of the routes we could have said is, here's a comprehensive platform. You take it, and we are not going to integrate with anyone else, right? But we also know that either build a walled garden, but what do our customers really want? And the reality of it is, everyone wants optionality. And so because of the optionality, we do integrate with different CRMs. We do integrate with different service lane technologies because we understand that there's different parameters, either choice, optionality, or number two, we also understand that certain OEMs have said, hey, this is who we're going to partner and certify with, right? And so I just want everyone here to understand is that optionality is very important to us. And what we do is anything that we develop, we let it stand on its own merit. Sure, are there benefits because it's deeply integrated in one platform? 100%, right? But for us to force that upon any of our customers, that's the last thing we would ever want because we're very confident in who we are and what we have to offer.
Excellent. So let's move to wrap up. George, let's go ahead and let you take first crack at anything that you passionately want to get across to the audience about the truth about Tekion.
Yeah, great question. And I actually was out to dinner with a client yesterday, and I said that here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk around an ADA. There's going to be many, many people that promise you certain features, certain abilities. Hey, go with us, and this is going to happen. And my ask is do your due diligence. Do your due diligence with us, right? Don't ask the vendor. Ask other clients that have actually did it, but ask in multiple ways. Because I'll tell you, even on our side, you're going to meet a dealer that says, "Hey, I've got Tekion, it didn't work for me," but dig a little deeper into that. Did you change your workflows? Did you do that? Ask another dealer that actually has found success, right? What have you done? So I would ask everyone here is do your due diligence. Again, we feel very confident in where we stand with our product. We can help you, and we'll help you direct it and give you references, right? But just do your due diligence and figure out the values.
Awesome. So before I give you the wrap, the drum, I want to just tell an anecdotal story, a truth story here. One of my clients is the Raritan Automotive Group up in the Seattle market, and Greg Raritan, he asked me a year ago, he says, what are your thoughts on Tekion? And I said, look, if you want to be progressive, if you really want to outpace the competition, obviously integrations and new improvements coming out all the time, they're the ones to bet on. And he, lock, stock, and barrel, he said, if they'll listen to us, we will make them better. And I love that you all want dealer partners like that say, listen, we're good. You go back to your Longo example. We want to be better. You all set your egos aside. You welcome feedback, always like how Jay says. I love feedback. Feedback is a gift. Now, to our friend Jared, who said, whoa, don't be so generous with all those gifts. It is really important. You guys have an insatiable desire for feedback, and you're always wanting to improve. But at the same point, there are some things that you guys are really great on that dealers need to just keep investing and being involved with, because you all tell everything. So let's move to wrap up. I want to pat you on the back because you came up to Raritan. You sat with them. I watched you in this leadership team meeting, and within an hour, these guys were like true disciples, and you are true to your word as a company. Feedback's important, but hear me out. I think I can help you be better.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it, David. Look, we know at the end of the day, you have to listen to your customers from the front line, right? And, I think to some of the comments George made as well, give us an opportunity, right? Because, it's funny, I joke with dealers all the time. Everybody in here can agree. There's new, used, service, and parts, right? At the highest level, you got 16,000+ dealers that would agree on that. But the minute you go one layer down, everyone sells new cars a little different. Everyone sells their used cars a little different. Everyone's service is a little bit different. And I think that there's a lot of complexity in that. And I think that if you give us an opportunity, to George's comment earlier, that there is a tremendous amount of ingenuity in automotive as well. And each one of them does something a little different, but we're starting to find the value of really being able to create an ecosystem where they all can learn from each other and inspire each other. So what you did in the past may not be what you do in the future, but who better to hear it from than the existing dealers who are seeing success? So we really encourage you to talk to our dealers who are struggling, but also talk to our dealers that are thriving. And our job is to make sure every year we increase the list of thriving and partners with the ones that are struggling, but that's pretty much it. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent. You guys were great. Thank you so much for revealing the truth about Tekion, and we'll see you next time.